Full House brought laughter and heartwarming moments to our screens for 8 seasons, becoming a cornerstone of ABC's TGIF lineup. The show launched the careers of the Olsen twins and many others, keeping viewers engaged even on a traditionally challenging night for ratings. Packed with talented actors, the Full House family continues to bring joy to audiences of all ages. Here's a look back at some of the amazing performers who brought these characters to life. Luis Avalos as Mr. Santana. Luis Avalos was a dedicated character actor who brought joy and laughter to audiences for over 3 decades. You might not instantly recognize his name, but you've definitely seen his face. He was a staple on The Electric Company, where his silly skits left a lasting impression, and he held his own alongside Robin Williams in Stir Crazy. Throughout his career, Avalos made numerous TV appearances and shared the screen with big stars. He worked with Tim Allen in Jungle 2 and Harrison Ford in Hollywood Homicide. Luis Avalos passed away on January 22, 2014, from heart failure following a heart attack. Doris Roberts as Claire Tanner. With a natural talent for playing moms, she could also portray tough-as-nails characters, gossips, or even be a bit of a pain. Always too smart for anyone's nonsense. Even after hitting retirement age and wrapping up her iconic role on Everybody Loves Raymond, Doris didn't slow down. She continued to act, becoming known as one of TV and film's most beloved moms. Her presence was always a welcome addition, whether as a guest star or a film character. Sadly, Doris Roberts passed away in her sleep on April 17, 2016, at her home in Los Angeles following a stroke. Helen Martin as Shirley Helen, an incredible African-American actress who changed the game in the entertainment world. She kicked off her journey by co-founding the American Negro Theater in Harlem back in the 1940s and lit up Broadway with her undeniable talent. While she always had a soft spot for theater, Helen eventually decided to take her skills to both the small and silver screens. Helen made her big screen debut in The Phoenix City Story, a powerful film that didn't shy away from addressing real-life issues like corruption and racism. After taking a short break, she made a comeback in the 1970s with even more passion and drive. On TV, she stole the show with her hilarious performances in beloved sitcoms like Good Times and the ever-popular 227. Sadly, Helen passed away in 2000, but her legacy as a gifted and versatile actress endures. Biff Menard as a cowpoke. Mickey Menard's birth year is a bit fuzzy, falling somewhere between 1939 and 1943. But one thing's for sure, he made his mark in Hollywood. He appeared in movies for years and even had guest spots on shows like The Flash. While he had plenty of roles, you might remember him best as Hap Ashby from the sci-fi adventure flick Trancers, playing a washed-up baseball player targeted by a future assassin. Now that's something. He even came back for the sequel. Sadly, Menard passed away in 2014 in Las Vegas after a long illness, but his movies will always keep his memory alive. Ivonne Wilder as Irene Ketsopoulos. From wacky sitcoms to chilling horror films, Ivonne Wilder left her mark on Hollywood. Not only did she have a flourishing career on television, but she also co-wrote a horror movie. Wilder began on TV in the 70s, appearing on shows like The Partridge Family and bringing comedic flair to specials like The Soupy Sales Show. Her film career wasn't limited to comedies like Silent Movie with Mel Brooks and Seems Like Old Times with Goldie Hawn. She co-wrote the horror flick The Return of Count Yorga with her husband. Later, she continued to grace television screens with shows like Full House. Sadly, she passed away in Los Angeles in 2021 at the age of 84. Denise Dows as Mrs. Jacobs. Double the trouble, double the talent. Denise Dows wasn't afraid to tackle diverse roles, captivating audiences from the halls of West Beverly High to the battlefields of Starship Troopers. Dows honed her craft with guest spots on iconic sitcoms like ALF and Full House. Her strong presence soon landed her parts in feature films, including Robert Redford's Sneakers and the cult favorite Biodome. Dows's career highlight might be her dual roles on Beverly Hills 90210. She portrayed the strict yet caring vice principal, Mrs. Yvonne Teasley, and Professor Harriet Strathmore during the show's college years. She also held a prominent role as the tough Judge Rebecca Damson for over 30 episodes of The Guardian. Sadly, Denise Dows passed away in August 2022 at the age of 64. Eddie Barth as Lou. Though never the leading man, Eddie Barth could steal a scene with the best of them. His signature raspy voice became a familiar comfort on television screens for decades. You might recognize him as Myron Fowler, the thorn in the side of the Simon brothers on Simon and Simon. But Eddie's career stretched back even further, playing Lieutenant Al Rossi on the short-lived 70s show Shaft. Shows like Night Court and Murder, She Wrote wouldn't have been the same without his memorable characters, Morty Fleckman and Richie Kempinski. He possessed a golden touch for elevating even the smallest roles, often thanks to his unforgettable rasp. Sadly, Eddie Barth passed away in Los Angeles in 2010 at the age of 78. Marsha Wallace as Mrs. Carruthers. Marsha Wallace wasn't afraid to be the funny one in the room. Even as the secretary on the Bob Newhart show in the 70s, she could crack wise with the best of them, stealing hearts with her quick wit. You might also remember her from tons of guest appearances and game shows back then. Even after her career slowed down a bit, Marsha bounced back in a big way. By the end of the 80s, she was back on stage and TV, even winning an Emmy for her iconic voice role as the eternally exasperated Mrs. Crabapple on The Simpsons. Through it all, Marsha never lost her sense of humor or her grit. The world lost a true comedic gem when she passed away in 2013 at the age of 70. Bill Wiley as Jeb. From miniseries to TV movies and popular shows, Wiley became a familiar face to many. Some of his notable appearances include the engaging miniseries Murder in Texas and TV movies such as Mistress of Paradise and Gus Brown and Midnight Brewster. But it was his roles in beloved sitcoms that really showcased his talent. Wiley brought his unique charm to Cheers, Full House, and Empty Nest, leaving audiences wanting more. As the years went on, Wiley continued to be a sought-after actor, appearing in TV movies like Wedding Day Blues and Arthur Miller's The American Clock in the late 80s and 90s. Sadly, the actor who brought us so much joy and entertainment passed away at the age of 92 in 2021. Richard Paul as Mr. Strobridge. Richard Paul wasn't one for staying put. The silver screen, the flickering box of television, they were all playgrounds for his boundless talent. In the 70s, he rocketed through Space Force, a sci-fi adventure that would have you reaching for the stars. Then, with a wink and a sly grin, he'd turn up in Eating Raoul, a cult classic that defied definition. He even lent his voice to bring cartoon characters to life. The 80s and 90s saw Richard seamlessly switch gears. After gracing our screens with his versatility in shows like Graceland, Richard Paul hung up his acting hat. Though he left us too soon in 1998, his vibrant performances continue to entertain and inspire. Lois Nettleton as Joanne St. John. Lois Nettleton, a beloved veteran of stage and screen, brought warmth and depth to Season 2 of In the Heat of the Night. As Joanne St. John, the local diner owner and occasional love interest of Carol O'Connor's Chief Gillespie. In a gripping twist, her character's scandalous past was unveiled in the episode AKA Kelly K, prompting Joanne to flee Sparta in shame. Though she made a few more appearances that season, her character's journey was cut short. Nettleton's acting journey began with a spark in Chicago and grew into a brilliant flame at New York City's prestigious Actors Studio. She made her Broadway debut in 1949 in Dalton Trumbo's The Biggest Thief in the World, and quickly caught the eye of legendary playwright Tennessee Williams. As an understudy in the original 1955 production of Cat on a Hot Tin Roof, and later starring in the 1973 revival of A Streetcar Named Desire, Nettleton proved her incredible talent and range. On television, Nettleton graced iconic shows like The Twilight Zone and Route 66 with her captivating presence. After her heartfelt role on In the Heat of the Night, she brought laughter to Seinfeld and added depth to Crossing Jordan. Her final role in the 2006 Hallmark movie The Christmas Card was a testament to her enduring talent. Nettleton's personal life was just as rich. She was married to humorist Jean Shepherd, whose 1966 book, In God We Trust, All Others Pay Cash, inspired the beloved holiday classic A Christmas Story, which he co-wrote and narrated. Their partnership was a blend of humor and heart. Lois Nettleton passed away from lung cancer in 2008 at the age of 80, leaving behind a legacy filled with unforgettable performances and heartfelt moments. Jack Kusian as Yorgos Papouli Katsopoulos. With over 200 films and TV shows to his credit, Jack entertained audiences for decades. His acting journey began in high school with radio plays, leading to work on radio programs for the military in the 1940s. Jack landed his first film role in a gangster flick in 1949 and continued to expand his resume over the years. He portrayed a lawyer in a thriller, held recurring TV roles, and even appeared on a sketch comedy show in the 1980s. You might recognize him as Grandpa Papadopoulos on Webster or from his appearances on Full House. Jack Kusian passed away on April 2, 2002, in Chandler, Arizona, while on vacation, after battling illness for some time. He was 80 years old. Annette Funicello as Annette Funicello. Decades before they bubblegummed their way onto the scene, Annette Funicello had America wrapped around her finger. As a young star on the Mickey Mouse Club in the 50s, she became a national obsession. Her infectious personality and bright smile could melt even the stoniest heart. By the show's first season, she was drowning in fan letters, thousands a week. Later in life, she faced a different kind of spotlight. Her courageous battle with multiple sclerosis became an inspiration to many. But for most, Annette Funicello will forever be that iconic Mouseketeer, her name proudly stitched onto her sweater, forever a symbol of youthful joy. Sadly, on April 8, 2013, Funicello died at age 70 at Mercy Southwest Hospital in Bakersfield, California, from complications attributed to multiple sclerosis. Andre Rosie Brown as bodyguard. Who knew Officer Friendly could be such a scene stealer? Before Fred Brown was lighting up our TVs, he spent 14 years keeping things safe as a cop in Seattle and L.A. But even with a badge, acting was his jam. Dude landed his first role on Hill Street Blues all the way back in 1985. Talk about multitasking. Finally, in 1998, Fred ditched the handcuffs for scripts full-time. The 90s and 2000s were his acting glory days. You might remember him from shows like Designing Women or Hanging with Will on Fresh Prince. Heck, he even scored a spot on Friends. Oh, and movies? He totally crushed it in Caddyshack 2 and the crazy funny Throw Mama from the Train. Sadly, on July 18, 2006, Brown died of a short illness in Northridge, California at the age of 50. Michelle Nicastro as Roxana. Michelle Nicastro was a talented performer who did a little bit of everything. Originally from D.C., she started out acting in plays, including a big role in a fancy Los Angeles production of Les Miserables. After that success, it was only natural for her to move on to TV and movies. On top of acting, Michelle had a great singing voice. She mostly sang in plays, but she also lent her voice to characters in cartoons like Xena, Warrior Princess, and even put out a few albums of her own, mostly with songs from musicals and cartoons. Sadly, Michelle passed away from cancer in 2010 at the age of 50. Phyllis Diller as herself. Move over, Lucille Ball. Long before Roseanne Barr or any other comedian with a wild streak, Phyllis Diller was the queen of cracking up audiences in the 1950s. Forget vacuum cleaners and PTA meetings. Phyllis painted a hilarious picture of suburban life with her signature wild hair, outrageous outfits, and that laugh that could shatter glass, in the best way possible. People couldn't get enough of her. She became a TV regular, gracing the screens of talk shows and turning up the volume on game shows like The Hollywood Squares and The Gong Show. Though Phyllis Diller passed away in 2012, her comedic legacy and infectious laughter live on. Esther Scott as Mrs. Homewood. Esther Scott wasn't all about the red carpet. Before becoming a familiar face, she started out behind the mic, giving voices to those adorable little Ewoks in Star Wars. Way cooler than working a regular 9-to-5, right? Then, bam! Esther stepped in front of the camera, landing roles in shows we all grew up with. Beverly Hills, 90210, Full House, Party of Five. Basically the holy trinity of teen dramas. She even became BFFs with Gina Davis on her show, proving she could be both funny and dramatic. Sadly, we lost Esther Scott in 2020, but her awesome energy and killer acting chops will always be remembered. Ed McMahon as Ed McMahon. Even if you didn't know his name, his infectious laugh and catchphrases like "Hi Yo" made him instantly recognizable. While Johnny Carson was the star of The Tonight Show, Ed played a crucial role as his sidekick for 3 decades. Ed's warm personality and knack for setting up jokes made him a beloved audience favorite. He wasn't just Johnny's partner, he was a superstar in his own right, landing numerous commercials and gigs on top of the show. Before becoming Johnny's announcer, Ed's impressive voice found him announcing everything on early television. Then, in the 1950s, fate intervened on a game show, sparking a legendary partnership that lasted an incredible 34 years. Robert Arthur as the Minister. From the high seas to the silver screen, Robert Arthur's journey is a tale of Hollywood stardom born from wartime service. After sailing the world with the Navy during World War II, he charted a new course for himself in Tinseltown. Not content with just the big screen, Arthur made waves on television too, galloping into living rooms as a guest star on the beloved series The Lone Ranger during the swinging 50s. He was also a man of many passions, throwing his support behind a political candidate in the fiery election of '64, and later championing the rights of older members of the LGBTQ+ community. Sadly, in 2008, the curtain fell on Arthur's remarkable life, leaving behind a legacy of silver screen magic and tireless advocacy. Max Alexander as Dr. Reuben Weiniger. While he may not have stolen the spotlight, you probably caught him cracking jokes on shows like Full House and Matlock, or sharing scenes with big shots like Tom Hanks and Jim Carrey in flicks like Roxanne and Forgetting Sarah Marshall. Even as he battled throat cancer, Rodney kept the laughs coming. Though he left us in 2016 at a sprightly 63, his legacy lives on in the belly laughs and chuckles he left in his wake. Carl Wilson as himself. In the Beach Boys family, Carl Wilson was like the beating heart. While his brother Brian was the big thinker and Dennis was carefree, Carl kept everything in balance. He started young, strumming his guitar and lending his voice to the band's tunes. When Brian took a step back, Carl stepped up, singing on hits like God Only Knows and Good Vibrations. He even led the band for a while when things got tough. Carl wrote some of their best songs too, but the band hit a rough patch. He took a break to try going solo, but eventually came back to the Beach Boys in the '80s, keeping their music going strong. Sadly, Wilson died of lung cancer in Los Angeles, surrounded by his family on February 6, 1998. Sorl Book as Lionel. Behind the iconic boss hog facade lies the untold story of Sorl Book, a seasoned actor whose journey began on the airwaves of Buffalo, New York. From radio dramas to Broadway stages, Book's talent knew no bounds. Though he's best remembered for his role in The Dukes of Hazzard, his legacy stretches far beyond Hazzard County. With accolades in film and animation, Book's versatile career left an indelible mark on entertainment. Sadly, on February 11, 1994, Sorl Book died of colorectal cancer in Sherman Oaks, California. Mary Pat Gleason as Jennifer Ciansky. A true veteran of the screen, Gleason was a character actress extraordinaire, with a staggering resume boasting over 100 credits to her name. She graced television and film sets since the 1980s, leaving an indelible mark with her memorable performances. One of her lengthier stints was on the soap opera Guiding Light in the mid-1980s, but she often popped up in one-off appearances across various TV shows, always leaving a lasting impression. Gleason's comedic timing was impeccable, as evidenced by her appearances on comedy classics like Murphy Brown and Friends. She had a knack for making the most of every moment, no matter how small the role. Sadly, the entertainment world lost a gem when Mary Pat Gleason passed away on June 2, 2020, at the age of 70. James Hampton as Mr. Malatesta. The versatile and beloved character actor James Hampton left an indelible mark on both the small and big screens. Known for his impeccable comedic timing and his ability to embody the perfect sidekick, Hampton's journey into the world of acting began in Texas, where he studied his craft before taking on off-Broadway productions. His talent was undeniable, and he soon found himself rubbing shoulders with the likes of Burt Reynolds, a friendship that would lead to future collaborations. Hampton's on-screen debut came in an Oscar-nominated short in 1962, and he quickly followed it up with a string of television appearances, including on the iconic Gunsmoke. But it was his role as PFC Dobbs in the 1965 comedy F Troop that truly showcased his comedic chops. Hampton's ability to embody endearing sidekicks was further highlighted in the 1985 comedy Teen Wolf, where he played Harold Howard, the father of Michael J. Fox's titular character. He reprised the role in the sequel and the animated spin-off, solidifying his connection to the franchise. So that's it, everyone. Gone but not forgotten. These actors left a mark. Share your favorite memories in the comments. See you next time.